Hey guys, it's Martin here again. I want to start things off by saying I'm very sorry that I didn't get a new We're Still Here out last week even, and that's entirely my fault. I could tell you that I was extremely busy, and I was extremely busy, but it's not the real reason I wasn't able to do it. I could have probably stopped work at any point, and should have stopped work at any point to take an hour or two out of my day to do this, because you deserve that much, and I probably could have used it, but I didn't because I guess I didn't feel up for it. I didn't feel like I could do it without getting really down. And I was already really down. I had a bit of a bit of a rough week. I got very upset several times. It's not been too fun, but and that's what caused me to be reluctant to try and talk to you guys and even try and vent my problems, and that's a real issue when I can't do that. I'm really sorry that I didn't take the time to do that. I'm sorry to you, and I'm sorry for myself, because it could have helped me a lot. So I guess the lesson here to take from that is, if there's ever a point, if you're depressed or even if you're not, a lot of what I talk about isn't specifically just exclusively for depressed people. It's for people who are going through a rough time. If you ever feel like, doing something is pointless, while in the back of your mind you know it would help, but there are a million excuses to not do it, none of those millions of excuses are worth neglecting yourself. You deserve all the time it takes to keep yourself well and keep your conscience clean and to keep your mood elevated. Because if you just neglect it, if you've ever played The Sims, you know what happens. That green bar goes all the way down, and you start screaming at the sky and wetting your pants. That's what I learned from that game anyway. But yeah, I should have released a video, and it's on me that I didn't. And I feel incredibly guilty for it, and I'm sure a lot of you will be like, "Don't feel guilty," but I feel that. I want to be honest. But hey, I'm here this week, and a bit of a rushed one this week. Unfortunately, I do apologize again, because I have to get on a plane in about 4 hours, and I have a therapist's appointment in about an hour or so. So this is going to be really sort of down to the wire, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to speed through this, because it's not like it's an afterthought. I'm not doing this because I'm obligated to, and I'm not doing this because it's not a case of just having content to put out there. This is something I really feel passionate about and I really want to do, and you guys seem to feel very passionately about it. I just went to Fanime this past weekend, and I got a lot of people coming up and talking to me about it. And I know I've been to conventions before when I've been like, yeah, a lot of people came up to me and talked to me about We're Still Here, and it's fantastic. I'm incredibly proud of you guys for coming forward and talking about your own problems with me, and talking about how this has affected them or affected your ability to deal with them. And but Fanime is a huge convention. It's thousands of people, and compared to some of the biggest conventions I've been to in the last few months since I made We're Still Here in the first place, it's about 5 times the size of one of those, and I still had people consistently coming up to me and saying thank you for doing the show and telling me about their own personal troubles, and it really meant a lot to me. I kept telling each of them that came to me, how much it meant to me that they would feel open enough to talk about it, or that that it's helped them. And honestly, that's all that really matters to me. So that's all I'm trying to say, is that these videos aren't just me trying to fill time. This is me really trying to help both of us, and hopefully it's working. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to skip the "here's something that makes me happy" part, because I just don't have the time, and I'll go on to the meat of the issue, which is depression and dealing with it. And I want to talk about how it's easy to blame ourselves. As I just spent the first 5 minutes of this video explaining, I blame myself for things frequently, too frequently. 9 times out of 10, if something goes wrong, even if I wasn't in the room at the time, I will blame myself because I wasn't in the room and I should have been there and I should have been able to prevent something. And I'll apologize and I'll feel awful and I'll just go crawl into a corner and, just feel guilt, running up and down myself. But that's part of depression, is that, you'll feel this enormous weight dragging you down, especially when something goes wrong and it feels that it's attributed to you and to your depression, because you feel like you should be able to control that. But I keep saying this, but these videos are for me and for you. So when I say what I'm going to say, it's as much for you as it is for me. And this is something that I need to hear, and if you need to hear it, then I hope that it's helpful. But it's the vast majority of the time, trust me, it's not your fault. You may feel that you could have done something differently. You may look back on a situation and feel, well, I was just being me. I was letting my depression get the better of me, and I was not in control. But even so, I should have been able to take control. You may look back on a conversation with somebody and realize that you could have said things differently. I know there's been many times when I've been talking to somebody, in my mind I drift off because I'm like saying to myself, you don't deserve to know this person. You're worthless. You don't even contribute to the conversation, let alone to their life. And I'll focus on that. And as a result, I'll be ignoring them for a time, and that's on me. And then I feel super guilty for that. And if they ask me a question based on what they're asking, I'm like, oh God, how do I disguise the fact that I've been sat here basically being miserable instead of, being a good friend? And I hate myself for that. But it's not your fault if that happens. It's a voice in the back of your head. It's not like a second personality or anything, but it's something that's loud enough to be distracting, and it's loud enough to drown out the positive influences in your life, such as friends, or such as, work, or even fun. And it's not your fault that that's happening to you. It's really not. It's not your fault that this might be destroying relationships. It might be destroying your ability to focus, but it isn't because of you. It's because this thing has infected you. It's because you're human. And, that comes with its drawbacks. Depression affects literally every human at some point. We let our defenses down, and unfortunately it sneaks its way in. But it's not your fault that happened. And it's not your fault that you're going to suffer the repercussions of that. You're completely innocent in that situation. You're a victim. And this what's happening to you is essentially, somebody is brutally bringing you down. And that person is unfortunately you. And it's not easy to look at yourself and go, please stop. So it's not your fault. You don't have control. It's really not. It's really not you. Remember that. Remember that in your worst time, when depression is really eating its way at you, that's something else altogether. That's like a parasite. And you don't blame yourself for getting a cold. That's the best way I can describe it. You don't blame yourself for that. Any sickness, and this is what it is. It's a sickness. So I really hope that you're not you're not putting yourself down, and you're not, thinking that you may have lost a friend during this period. You may feel like you've lost touch with your family, but it can be resolved, because what's going wrong with you, what's happening to you, is not permanent. And when everything's settled, you're going to be able to pick yourself up and build yourself up, put yourself back together again, and you'll be stronger. And then you'll be able to take credit for that, because you are worth the time and effort that it will take to become the person you need to be. It's not your fault. Okay, with that said, I really have to go see my therapist in like half an hour, so I have to take off. It's my first time with a new therapist. I didn't actually... I got to the point where I really couldn't stick with my old therapist just because I was seeing him too infrequently, and it felt rather like he was just waiting for me to finish speaking, and then he would speak and say something, and then, I'm not good with those situations. I like people giving me time to let my feelings out. Like, this is inordinately helpful for me, and I'd like to have a therapist who spends more time listening than speaking. So I'm hoping this next one will be more along those lines. I've had them recommended to me. We'll see how it goes. Fingers crossed for both of us. I'm heading to MomoCon in Georgia this weekend. That's where I'm flying to in like 4 hours. I hope I see some of you there. I really do. I'll try and have a good time. It's gonna be a long convention. It's 4 days, and Fanime was a 4-day con, so that's 8 days of conventions in the space of a weekend of like 10 days. So it's gonna be fun. But it is gonna be fun because I'll get to see you guys. So thank you, and I hope you have a good week. Take care of yourself.